right, got myself going. Ready
All
when you are.
We're live, so I'm gonna switch over.
On my
in
messy room.
3,
You're good. Go.
2, 1, switch it.
Yeah, don't mind Ramses there. I just want to make sure that we are live. All right, we are good. Make sure that's muted. All right, let's do this shit.
Let's do it.
Got the notification, so now I know it's for real. What's up, nerds, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. We do want to thank all of our repeat listeners out there, whether you are watching live with us on YouTube as we record, or if you're one of our audio-only listeners. Welcome, and of course, with me here tonight to break down everything going on around the esports side of the game, as well as what's been happening in Overwatch 2 are my co-hosts, Ramses and Spyder. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
Go ahead, Ramses. I am I am fiddling with cameras, so you go first.
I'm pretty good. I made it not on time, but I made it as close to on time as I think I've ever been for this podcast. So I'm doing all right. It's Southern California Christmas is not the same as other places, but we make the most of it. It's a nice, crisp 50 degrees. We love it out here. I am glad that Doomfist got nerfed, and then apparently he's just as bad in a different way now from some tweets. I don't know. I haven't gotten to play the game yet. Also, Merit, I'm still crying about that one, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Houston fans can never have nice things for more than one season. I'm doing okay. I'm happy to be here. Totem, Spyder, how are you guys doing today?
Well, I'm a little under the weather, which was unfortunate because I did sit down with Anjali Bhamani, voice actress for Symmetra earlier today. So, my energy level isn't quite what it usually is. So I apologize if I sound a little nasally or if I drag on a bit. It's just that time of the year. Everyone's getting sick. But, at least it's before the holidays, not during the holidays. Better not we're talking about that earlier. But, outside of that, it's been a pretty good week, been a productive week with Dragonflight. Got the Hunter up to 70 for my ult. Now I'm working on a Druid, making some money, leveling mining and jewel crafting. So, I'm at the stage of almost bathing in gold coins, as Scrooge McDuck would. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Have you been to the bank yet, where you can throw money at people?
Yes.
I think that was such a nice touch that they included, that the dragons just hoarded all this amount of money, and it's just sitting around so you can have money fights with people. It's I've been enjoying the expansion. This isn't a World of Warcraft podcast, but I've been having fun. We just got out of a raid. We did pretty well. Until my internet crapped out. I still did better than the other dragons in the raid, so I'll take that win. But I did hop into Overwatch this week. I've been playing pretty much every day. I haven't played too much of the patch. I did test out some of the changes, but I haven't played an actual game, so I can't speak to Doomfist. But I can, I've read what Ramses has read, and Doomfist isn't as oppressive, but he can still be kind of a nuisance, which I think is fine. I mean, they need to find a certain level of balance with him before he just couldn't stay the way he was, because a good Doomfist was unkillable. Even for his counters. I ran against a good Doomfist 2 days ago, top tier, Masters, Grandmasters Doomfist. And we ran Sombra, Roadhog, Bastion, we ran everything we could, and he would just pop in, kill one of our supports, and then pop out. He finished the game with 17,000 damage, and his DPS finished with 4. He was just murdering the whole team in and out. So I am glad that they made some changes, but I want to test out the other stuff, so which we'll talk about a little later.
Now we complain about Roadhog, Spyder. That's the new axe to grind. Now we complain about Roadhog.
Well, they said they have some ideas for him, and they wanted to change him already. They have changes lined up for him. It's just there was a bug with him that he couldn't be fixed in a hot fix. So like I said, we'll talk about it a little later, but it's nice. Like, this is the communication that I kept talking about. Like, this is the, we are aware that this is a problem. We already have these specific changes, which they told us that they have certain specific changes, and then they moved on, which is exactly what I wanted. Like, just be upfront about it. Be like, all right, look, Roadhog's going to be in your lives for a couple more weeks, until after the holidays, and then, hopefully he'll be toned down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, he is a reindeer after all, so he has to be there through the holidays. Until at least January when that patch does hit. But yeah, they basically alluded to them making some changes and then having like a soft rework like after that. So, we might see some smaller stuff and then, some bigger changes down the line on that front. But, it's nice having an idea of like what's kind of like in the pipeline in regards to the balance changes. And, sure, some of them might not be as happening like as quickly as some of the community would want, or as heavy-handed in some cases as the community would want. But the transparency it has been more apparent here recently, ever since, they brought Sojourn down a little bit, which, we did see some additional changes on top of that with today's patch, which, I love how the timing worked on that. We do record Thursdays. We had the patch earlier this afternoon. Doesn't necessarily always work out that way. So glad that in this instance, it's actually working in our benefits. But, it's been a busy Warcraft day, so I haven't actually had a chance to test everything out firsthand. But, going back to like last week, we talked a lot about the support changes, and we got a couple of additional support changes with this patch, but none quite to the level of nonsensical as the Mercy pistol stuff. Like
Anna got buffed.
Did you see there's the Mercy bug or Mercy? I don't know.
The flight changes, like the. Are you talking about like the flight pattern?
No, there's one I saw that ML7 put up today where like if you're Mercy, like so if you have like if Mercy is healing you and then they alt F4 out of the game, it'll boost you immediately to full health.
It's like one final scream of healing.
Yeah, it's it gives me the image of just like Shaq, like in Space Jam, like reaching out like the extra far, just like the last little bit, winning a fight off of 150 health you get from a Mercy alt F4ing.
I can't believe you said Shaq in Space Jam. Like, what?
Michael Jordan, my mistake.
Oh my God.
Michael, I know.
Excuse me while I edit Ramses out of this podcast.
Be mad at me. Be mad at me. I'm sorry.
You see, I can understand
on the brain. That's all.
At least you didn't say LeBron.
You miss half the free throws that you take, just like Shaq.
I mean, look, we could have, if this were like 10 years earlier, we could have had the Blake Griffin Space Jam. And between a Blake Griffin Space Jam and a LeBron James Space Jam, I think we got maybe not a better one, but a more appropriate one.
Oh, well. Nah. But
well, sometimes they just throw as much shit on the screen as they can, like they did with the last one.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to play much this week either. I honestly, after my rage that I told you guys about last week, I have stepped away for a little bit. I've played a couple of games here and there. What surprises me is like I'm still kind of baffled at people who are. I've seen some people talk about like how they just play. Like Cloudy still talks about how he's playing Ryan into things. People are talking about how they're playing Winston into things, and it's like, dude, when Doom is that good, and like it's either just Doom or Roadhog, I'm so surprised when people play anything else.
Well, they don't want to stoop to their level, is what it is.
Like how and Cloudy's out here posting like, yeah, here's my Grandmaster Ryan game with Shield Unbound, so I can't use it. So it's just like hammer only, Shield Unbound, 65% win rate. I'm like, how?
Because I don't. Supports can actually heal at that level. They're not a flanking DPS Moira and a Kiriko that's going full damage.
But when I throw my kunai down the hall, it's gonna get a kill. I'm not gonna aim, but if I just yeet them long enough, I'll get somebody.
The Hanzo approach, I love it.
Yeah. Eventually, someone's gonna walk right into it. That's usually how it works.
Well, no, I think Rhine has a place. Like there are certain maps that Rhine does really, really well in this map pool, and and unfortunately, or fortunately, it seems like those maps get played more often. He does really well on Shambali Monastery. I've gone like 6 games there, and the last 3 have all had Reinhardts, and that team has done exceptionally well. Just because he can pretty much, until you get to like the last section, he can control like the whole corridor that the cart takes. So I could see it. Winston, I've had a few games people try to force Winston, and it doesn't go well. Like, he just jumps in and just gets deleted. Like, we had one game yesterday where we had a Winston, and I was in support jail because I always flex queue. So he would jump in like and die immediately, and he's like, I'm not getting any heals. And I'm like, dude, you're dying in like 3 seconds. Like, my healing as Kiriko doesn't reach you, and the Moira's, you know, fucking in a different map at this point trying to flank. So good luck with that.
I am curious. It feels like, I don't know if this has been your guys' experience. It feels like tank countering is so much like people counter tanks so much more often now. Like, I've played several games where like I go Doom and then they'll go Hog, and then I go like, and then I will switch to something else to counter that. Like, I'll go to Orisa and then they'll do something counter. Like, it feels like now you're just down to one tank. People are way more willing to counter that, especially with like alt changes. I've seen some people, or the alt charge changes. I've seen some people still now asking for those to either be removed or those to be changed around a little bit. I don't know. There's been some fun Overwatch takes that went on during this week. I don't know if you guys saw Wanted's tweet that everybody was mauling over.
Oh, it's about 6v6 no limits?
Yeah, about how like 6v6 no...
Yeah,
6v6 pre-roll-lock being like the golden age of Overwatch. And how like it was like the best the game ever got. And like... he got clowned on a little bit, but it was just funny for like everybody else I've talked to has just been like, oh yeah, you mean like when people were like didn't understand half the mechanics of how this game actually plays, and it was just like who can get headshots.
I don't think anybody who is a one trick is allowed to say that at all, because that's basically just him being like, well, that was the period where I could pick McCree and nobody could do anything about it.
Oh yeah, that's the part where I would just do 360 high noons on people and I could win all the time. All right. Back when there wasn't an Ashe to zone me out or a Sojourn.
That was also during the period where McCree could right click and kill a tank. So, you know, that was back when his Fan the Hammer did like 500 damage. So, you know, sure, a McCree player would say that was peak Overwatch, because McCree has basically been nerfed since then, with the exception of like one small period where he got his first health buff.
Give me the mid-air rollback. I want it.
Yeah, the mid-air combat roll was fantastic. We need more barrel rolls in Overwatch, just across the board.
Goodbye, Doomfist.
Yeah. Were we gonna do? Did you guys want to do? I'm sorry, I'm mumble mouth. Did you guys want to do esports stuff, or did you want to go into the actual patch notes first?
Let's do the esports stuff first, just because there's a bit more to the Overwatch 2 side of stuff.
Alrighty.
So you know, last week we were talking about Merritt getting traded from the Houston Outlaws. We didn't know where he was landed, and you know, turns out it was not the shot for the Gladiators.
I was correct.
As many people were expecting, he's landing with the Florida Mayhem.
I don't take any pleasure being right, gentlemen. I don't take any pleasure being correct.
I love how Totem and I both send each other the same message. Like, who the hell thinks Florida weather is nice? Like, what the hell? Like, maybe for like 2 months in the winter, it's great. The rest of the time of the year, it's like ball soup city.
If you visit Florida like once or twice, like when I visited Florida like in 2019, I was like, this place is the best. This is awesome. I love Florida. And then 4 days in, I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go back.
The Florida experience in a nutshell.
So there's a couple of things to pick apart with it. I'm really interested. Like, I wonder how long of a contract Houston originally had him on. It sounds like, from what we've been led to believe, tons of teams are trying to go with more budget-friendly rosters this year. And if you can get a good price for Barrett, I mean, I can see like where you would like that logistically would make sense. It's a bummer for Houston because it really felt like this was like this guy and Pelican were like what you were going to build around. especially if you weren't going to go with Dante. And we've heard rumors like Houston was going to be going full Korean, so like it sounded like a sure pick. So it's a bummer if you're a Houston fan, and I'm a little frustrated on that end. If you're Florida, though, like this is a really good pickup. I would argue it's an upgrade. You don't have Hydron back, obviously. He didn't get re-signed, but like I think it's somebody who's an upgrade over Hydron on the hit skin. It looks like as well they're at least teasing signings for another DPS and a support player if the graphic is like to be believed, because they show like Sojourn with like Merritt's name, and there's a Tracer with the name like fuzzed out and a Lucio with the name fuzzed out.
Okay. And when I saw this, the only thing I could think of was the people sitting in front of us at the grand final. Something like, man, they probably ripped their sign immediately.
I thought about that too. I thought about that too. Man, we can't have anything. We can't have anything.
You know, you take that next step forward, and then they're like, soft reset again. And then you're like, oh, come on, guys.
Tyrong's coming out of retirement. The Tyrong Arhan duo is coming out of retirement to lead Houston to the promised land one more time.
I found my my Jake Arhan LOL shirt the other day, and I was like, you know, I love this shirt, but I donated it. I was like, but it didn't fit. So that's the reason I went with, but you know, it brought back so many memories of Houston that I just miss. So I have the graphic up on the screen now so people can see kind of what Ramses was talking about, how they kind of hinted at a Tracer and a Lucio player for Florida. But I think, you know, like Ramses said, I think this is a good signing. I'm sure they got a pretty good deal on him. He may not have been proper, because nobody's proper except for proper, but he was definitely, you know, like a standout player last season. Like he was quietly consistent, which was what Houston needed. So it, like Ramses, I'm kind of sad that they lost him, because I want Houston to do well as well. But, you know, Florida, you know, turning things around, could be fun too. Maybe now they won't lose bets and have to go back to their Ronald McDonald colors every other game, just because their social media manager can't realize that they're, you know, not a good team. So I'm curious to see what else they have in the works.
Absolutely. And you know, like I will say, like, just going back to, you know, where we thought Merritt was as a player, you know, definitely it was around, you know, top 5 most of the time, you know, and it was nice to see him actually like step up for the playoffs too.
So gentlemen, who do we think, just because this is what's fun about free agency, who do we think are the other possible support signing and the other possible DPS signing? Because I was talking, you remember our Totem, you may remember from a long time ago, our boy, Mr. Howler, talking about how Florida has apparently never had a good, his word was good, main support or consistent main support. And I fought for Onimo on that discussion, but I lost. Who do we think comes in at the main support? Because I have an idea for the DPS, but it's kind of the worst.
Oh, man. I'm trying to think who I would even want for the team in particular.
Jexay's coming out of retirement.
I'm trying to remember like who all was released, because there's so many players.
Just pick someone. They're probably released at this point.
Well, yeah, that is true. I could see them going towards like Vindame in particular.
Vindame.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
Lige Gone is available.
Oh,
that is true.
And see, here's a horrible idea. Not a horrible idea, but here's like a crazy idea, but I could see it happen. Yaki returns to Florida.
Maybe.
Like,
but why would they put Tracer? Because like Yaki's good at Tracer, but in the last couple of seasons, his standout has always been his Echo. Unless they're just like relying on history at this point.
I mean, he played Tracer for like most of this entire season just because it was like, all right, here's what I'm going to try as hard as I can to carry on.
Yeah, and then he'd switch to Echo, and then he'd get picked, and then he'd go to something else. But I could see that. I don't know. Are we assuming that they're just going to stay all Korean?
I think so. I mean, because at the end of this, well, no, they're not going to stay all Korean because RuPaul's still on the team. RuPaul's still there, and they've confirmed he's resigned.
So that okay. What if Lucio is Funny Astro?
That man barely saw the field this year, which is hilarious.
But Lucio is his bread and butter, and he definitely makes a mark in it.
Oh no, he's great. It's just a bummer that we didn't get to see him as much as I wish we did.
Yeah.
I like Florida. Like, if this is the way they're going, it looks like Florida's gonna be a team like pushing for championship contention this year. I feel like we're gonna get to a spot once we get closer to rosters being finalized, where there will very clearly be teams that are pushing for championship contention and budget teams who are just keeping the seat warm for another season. Like
teams that hope to do well enough to sell some merchandise.
Yeah, I get a couple prize pools. Like that's about it. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I have no qualms about rooting for Florida if Houston's not playing, but we'll see. I do have qualms though. I've complained about this a couple times. So the Paris Eternal rebrand, officially launched the rebrand earlier this week, from the Paris Eternal to the Vegas Eternal, which we knew was coming. That got put out a couple months ago. It's kind of hilarious because they still haven't changed. Eternal was supposed to, the name Eternal's a reference to Paris specifically. The rooster, there's a different name that they use for it, but the rooster logo is specifically a reference to a French version of that animal. It's kind of weird to be the Vegas team and just have a rooster with the Eternal symbol on there as your team name. I figured they would go they were cheap enough to they wanted to splurge the money to move to Vegas, but they weren't going to splurge the money to just come up with a new name and logo at this point. Keep the color scheme, but you're not even going to do another name and logo.
You're bold to assume that it cost them any money to move to Vegas.
No, it didn't. But I mean, you're gonna just go on Fiverr, spend $15, and just change your logo.
And it's free social media content. You'd be like, we went on Fiverr and had 3 people design our logos at $5, $15, and $500, and boom, YouTube video. Because that's all I see on YouTube. So and at that point, I think it would be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm fine with the Eternal name, but I'm in full agreement. The logo needs to change, man, because I didn't like the logo to begin with, but I understood the locality of it to Paris. Just kind of like how I understood Excelsior for New York. I don't like the logo, but I can see where they got it from. Whereas now it holds zero meaning to the team, just like the players did. So I guess maybe they're staying consistent across the line.
Yeah, and Spyder and I were talking about this before we sat down to record, and when I saw this, I'm just like, well, really, the only thing eternal in Vegas is just the fact that there's no clocks anywhere, when you're in the casino, so time is just a construct. You don't know. You don't know. All you see is the flashing lights, and that is about it. You never know what time of the day it is. So time just feels like it is eternal. On the rooster, there is a really great chicken restaurant that is over by Park MGM called the Crack Shack. So, that's close enough. It's right there. It's on the strip. It's, central locale and everything, kind of goes hand in hand with that. But yeah, when I saw this, I wasn't too surprised. I mean, it's not super uncommon in esports or traditional sports not to do a complete rebranding. But that being said, I would have preferred to see one because even at times, like I know some of the social media managers like poke fun at like, oh, and here's our new logo, and it's basically just them fucking off in like MS Paint. But we didn't even get that, you know. We just got like this little I wouldn't even call it a hype video. But it was just basically saying like, oh yeah, we're the Vegas Eternal now, and then they just left it at that. And just like, but you had an opportunity there, but you just didn't take it. But, you know, if they're just going to go the budget route, like I can't say I'm too surprised by it. But I'm more curious to see like, you know, with the move, are we gonna get like a homestand in Vegas? I would absolutely love to see that.
That would involve them spending money, Totem. And I don't know.
That is true, but you know, you got to spend money to like make money.
I don't think
they don't understand that.
See, I'm gonna channel the spirit of Ednar. May he rest in peace. Something that would be horrible, but I think would be really fun is you do like a survivor pool for the Paris Eternal of who at the beginning roster is gonna make it to the end of the season.
I wouldn't take those odds even in Vegas.
Like, you put $10 down. If your guy makes it, you get the pot. There's people on this roster that they added at the end that I don't like love, but I think have upside. Like that support duo of Rack Attack and Lucamino, I think are like guys that have a lot of upside. Granted, and if everybody's going for more budget rosters this season, I think more mid-level or up or kind of like above average players are going to actually have room to compete.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see once we get closer to like actual game time if you have a ton of players who just don't get re-signed.
Could be, if they're looking for larger contracts. I could definitely see that as something that happens. But with that, we're going to see a lot of mid-season signings of people being like, okay, well, I didn't get the contracts I wanted, so now I kind of have to settle for something a little less.
Yeah.
Or they'll move to Valorant, because we've already seen multiple players move to Valorant. Like I just saw Xe announce that he's officially moving to Valorant. So, you know,
this is the rumor. The rumor is also that I think Fleta and I think Fate are both moving to Valorant too.
I think Fleta was confirmed. I haven't heard about Fate. And Carpe was confirmed as well. So we've seen a lot of people move over there. So, you know, I could see, you know, some high profile mid-season signings coming up down the pipe for, you know, people who don't get signed initially. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that start of the season, I think you're right. You know, we're going to see a lot of these, you know, mid-table teams be able to compete at the upper level. It's just, you know, I said it, I think last show and the show before, like the championship's almost up for sale at this point, the amount of players that are on the team. So if you're willing to spend the money, you have a very reasonable shot, because nothing is guaranteed, but you have a very reasonable shot of buying the championship at this point.
And somehow the Glads are still going to lose it.
Well, like I said, nothing's guaranteed. If your name is Houston Gladiator or Houston Outlaws or Los Angeles Gladiators or Philadelphia, yeah, you have to start bribing people to win it at that point.
Absolutely, but you know, we also have some other things to look forward to. You know, we talked about this a little bit last week. We had the announcement of the Korean Legends event, which is actually taking place tomorrow and Saturday. Basically, the date that they gave us initially was just like the roster announcement date. It was announcement of an announcement, and you know, actual tournament is happening over the course of this weekend for a 2-day event. This is a double elimination bracket, and just as a reminder, we have involved with this GC Busan, Kondu Panthera, Lunatic High, as well as Runaway. And we know our full rosters, and I have to say, looking at this event, when I was seeing some of the names, my heart was like so filled with joy seeing this, because we got a lot of like notable names, and honestly, some fairly big surprises on some of the rosters as well. So I'm not going to like go over all the names in particular for the rosters, but you know, we'll throw them up on the screen. But any real standouts that really caught you guys by surprise that are being involved with the show match here?
Agopun returns.
Nah, Miro.
Agopun returns.
Miro Ryuje Hong's back, along with Eska. Like what?
Mm-hmm. Oh, like Eska's the guy who's like they've never like when they've done stuff like this in the past, like show matches before. I remember they did one like kind of in the mid-table of last season. Like Eska was the one guy who everyone was like, oh, it's like I remember talking with the people, be like, man, like it's cool that they're doing this and it's really fun, but like, man, if Eska were there, oh, that would be perfect. And he's back.
We get the Ryu Jaehong Toby lineup back. But I mean, come on, the biggest one is Bumper. Bumper has returned to us, and you're gonna put him in a situation where he gets to play basically like a hero
Solo
character as a solo tank. Like, it is either gonna be like the most insane, well played, like aggressive tank, or the most insane, horribly played aggressive tanks that we have ever seen.
Yeah, either way, I'm definitely going to be tuning in to this. And, I'm excited to see the Decay Bird Ring DPS duo. I mean, also there's Troy Siwan for KDP. But, outside of that, like, obviously seeing like Ryu Jaehong back was a pretty nice thing in particular. But Prophet Illicit, I'm also really looking forward to seeing for GC Busan for, their DPS duo. But we also have like the match schedule that was posted. I know the Houston Atlas had tweeted this out earlier today to, give us a look at what matches we can expect for this bracket, what time they are playing. I'm assuming these are local times.
Yeah.
For Korea. So don't pay attention to what time is listed on here because it's always like 3 a.m. Central Time for us. But we got GC Busan going up against, as well as Lunatic High going up against Runaway, which honestly, like, those would kind of just be the expected matchups that you would want right out of the gate. Obviously, there's history there with Lunatic High and Runaway in particular. But, all of these teams, or at least like these esports organizations, have very storied history in competitive Overwatch. Apex was obviously like a huge reason for like a lot of the content creators and a lot of the pro players to like pursue careers in competitive Overwatch on top of that. And, whenever we're talking about production quality for, esports as a whole, a lot of people look back at Apex as really being the heyday of competitive Overwatch, just across the board with the level of competition, just the production value that we got. We got a lot of great segments. And they just did a really great job at like making you care about the players that were involved in these tournaments. And, we've seen glimpses of that here and there with the Overwatch League, but nothing quite to the same extent as what we have seen in years past. So, hopefully one day we'll be able to make up for that a little bit more, because like I even know like with CDL, like they've been fairly good at that as well. So to see it kind of go not necessarily to the wayside, but not necessarily having as much attention to it on the player side for the Overwatch League is a bit of a downer. But there's always room for improvement with certain aspects of the league.
I'm hyped for it though. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm curious to see how they play it though, because if they play it on like the current patch, which we assume is what they're going to do, maybe the one that came out today, if not, the previous one, we're going to see a lot of Roadhog, and none of these teams really played a lot of Roadhog in their heyday because he just wasn't that good. So we're not going to get like the fabled matchups, but
have you forgotten about the gesture Roadhog, Spyder?
Look, that was like one time, okay?
My man was cracked on the Roadhog too.
So was Decay, but Decay was
Who was
Zarya.
also there.
But yeah, the fact is, I hope they go into this with like a fun mindset and being like, okay, we're just not going to play Roadhog all the maps. Like, maybe they have like a gentleman's agreement to be like, all right, let's play the old school comp, stuff like that. That I want to see some fun stuff here and there, not, super serious meta play Sojourn every map, kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they are ex-pro players, are current pro players. So I don't know if that'll happen because they all want to win.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you know, at least with like Korean esports in general, like seeing GC Busan's like Royal Road that they went on is something that will probably never be done again in regards to, you know, getting that promotion to like the next step of competition and just making a run all the way through it. Very uncommon just in esports as a whole. But yeah, this should be a ton of fun, and I honestly really want Bumper to come out on Hanzo at least for, you know, one map. You know, we got to see it. He's got to pull it out.
With his bug and all.
Yeah.
Still didn't fix that. I wish they would talk about that at some point, being like, yeah, we know Hanzo has recoil now. We buffed up his bow a little bit. No gameplay changes, but we decided that Hanzo players just, you know, we like to fuck with them every now and then.
Absolutely. So the event's happening Friday, Saturday this weekend. It should be posted on the Overwatch Korea YouTube channel. Might be streaming on Twitch too. I'm not sure about that. But you know, we got 2 days of action because it is double elimination. So if you're a fan of competitive Overwatch, or if you're a big fan of Apex in years past, definitely go check out this Legends event. And you know, who knows what the future may hold? Because you know, there's a lot of free agents involved in this tournament. You know, maybe some of the Legends actually will come back for Overwatch 2.
Imagine Bumper getting signed. That would be amazing.
A man can dream, Spyder.
If only, if only. Now, when is when is Fissure coming out of retirement to play one more match? That's the one I want. I want the 5th Fissure retirement.
No one ever truly stays retired. It's just like pro wrestling.
Yeah. Everybody's just one phone call away. So is it time to talk about the Winter Wonderland event?
I mean, we kind of have to.
You go.
Well, but before that, just a reminder, we will have that Anjali Bhamani interview dropping on the feed tomorrow, along with episode 245 of Heroes Never Die. But here's the thing, with Winter Wonderland, where to even begin?
My favorite was I was looking at I was looking at Deemsy's tweets earlier. He was like, you know what? It was so funny and horrible to look through. He's like, all right, we're a week out, no announcement. All right, we're 3 days out, no announcement. All right, we are 12 hours ahead of when this patch is going to drop, and they haven't told us anything. I have zero hype right now, and I'm not excited about it. And Deemsy was right.
Yeah, and you know, there was the follow-up to that when it did drop, and seeing the realization that there was a lot of recycled content, and then the follow-up of basically like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. You know, we might have to make a change in direction. Which, here's the thing: at the end of the day, I completely understand that mindset. With this season, obviously there was attention more drawn to the Greek mythology stuff with the Battle for Olympus like side event that they got going on. And when you're put in a position where you're like, okay, we need to add new stuff for the seasonal model. Unfortunately, in this case, you know, the Winter Wonderland stuff in particular just kind of fell to the wayside, and more of the attention was brought to, you know, the other part of the event. Because for me, like, as a consumer, like, my expectation wasn't like it was for the Halloween event, which was a new take on what we had already seen, with a brand new mission in that case. I was fairly certain that because of what was already involved with Winter Wonderland, and like just knowing like how many missions there were already, you know, it didn't make as much sense in this case to bring something new to the table. Now, am I disappointed by that? Sure. You know, obviously I would have liked to see something new, but I also know that I'm not a fan of this event in general. and all of the game modes that they have brought up. So they've already had like 3 strikes for Winter Wonderland for me personally. So this isn't necessarily an event that I would ever be chomping at the bits about kind of going into, but we do have some pretty good skins. So there is that, but of course, most of them are going to be, shop based.
Yep. Look, as an avid May player, I don't even like this event. Like, you should.
He just admitted that on air. He just admitted that.
Clearly, you don't watch our YouTube shorts because they're like half May.
We used to beat people up for saying things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when your Hanzo main was an insult on the school playground.
Yeah.
But and we did a story about it. Yeah, as an avid May player, I don't like this event either. Like, the Yeti game mode is tolerable for a couple of games, but the snowball games just aren't fun. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know it. I can do fairly well with them because the timing is the same as the icicle once you figure out the trajectory, but it's just not fun. I will say that the thaw, like the freeze tag elimination where you can thaw your teammates, I think is a fun change up to elimination. Like that is a game mode that I constantly go back to while it's there, because it is just a fun game mode, and B, it's an easy way to knock out arcade wins for the weekly challenge at this point, because you're going to bang your head against it a couple of times, but most times the games are rolls, so it's going to be over fast one way or the other. But yeah, this event, I don't know. It's disappointing that they didn't do anything new and they locked all the good stuff behind the cash shop, but that's how free to play games work. Like, have you ever played an event in Apex? Have you ever played, an event in Destiny 2? Even that's a paid game, but same thing. Like, pretty much all of it is the good stuff is in the cash shop. Here's a crappy free mode to spend some time in, but it's not going to change the core game at all. So
you notice Totem how he didn't say Fortnite, and that's because Nate Nanzer would never do this to us.
Well,
Nate Nanzer never would have done this to us.
Fortnite doesn't really do, like, they have their limited time modes, but they recycle so often you can't really do that. And Fortnite just gives people a bunch of random shit during Christmas for free. So I didn't want to bring up Fortnite because, again, Fortnite is like the gold standard for free to play, and they have so much money that they don't care at this point. Like, they're raking in the money regardless. So
it's that weird thing. Like, we talked about this before the game, I mean, either on or off or before the game even came out, that like there needs to be an avenue for them to make money consistently, or else like they're just like, if it was just like you get loot boxes and then also like if it's just loot boxes and then also like you don't pay for anything in there too, like, okay, they don't make money at all.
Right.
You need to have some sort of currency for that to work. But I think just a combination of where the prices are at, and then with like, I don't know, I think part of it too is we had always expected like this is going to be solve the great content drought, we're finally going to get stuff, and then for all of it to just be behind a wall, which again makes sense, but just for there to be now an obstacle to getting that, I think just tastes bad for a lot of people.
I think like the biggest thing I realized when I was making like the money video is there needs to be like a free to play currency to alleviate some stress on this stuff, and they need to make everything available, for a higher amount on that free to play currency. You can dial it in however much you give people to make it fair, so that if you do have a skin in the shop you really want, and somebody like Totem who really enjoys Halloween, or somebody who like me who really enjoys May, but I don't necessarily want to buy a $20 May skin if it looks really cool during Christmas, maybe I could save up those free to play currency and buy that May skin during the event. Or maybe, like the Orisa skin right now. The Orisa skin right now looks amazing. Like the Star Sheep. Like even my kids were like, wow, that skin is amazing. Wait, who is that again? Kind of thing. So there needs to be some other avenue to at least purchase these things. Obviously, if you want them all, it's not realistic to have a free-to-play currency cover that cost. But if you want one per event, sure, why not? Or one every other event, like holiday event. I think that would be something that would go a long way to alleviate community backlash, because it's true. Like they showed off, they put out that tweet where they show off all the new skins and here's all the fancy stuff. And then, they don't ever put anything in the tweet, which is, perfect marketing of, hey, each one of those skins is going to cost you $20, kind of thing. And sure, the hardcore people, the streamers will buy it and they'll be like, haha, I'm buying this ironically, but really they're like, whatever, I'm making the money back. It doesn't matter. But the average person isn't, like me, I'm going to be like, wow, that Orisa skin looks really fucking amazing. But I'm not going to buy it because it's not worth $20 to me, especially right before Christmas.
Have you seen as well? Like I was trying to get it. I was in the event yesterday and I was trying to even just find like where the skins are. Mm-hmm. There's not even like a here's what's new tab.
I know, I missed that too. Like that's the first thing I looked for. You got to go into like the individual heroes and look at them. So it's there are definitely some huge growing pains. And they said that they have some ideas how to fix it. It's not hard to get an idea. Like Blizzard has always been that company that's like, okay, you guys did this, it worked well, we're going to iterate on that, do it a little better, and this is ours now, kind of thing. That's all they need to do with this. Like they did the free to play model, but they forgot to look at the market and say, well, what does well with the communities while still making money? Because I feel like they just stopped and they were like, all right, what's going to make us the most money? Which, works for a little bit, as we saw with Diablo Immortal, but eventually that's going to drop off and you're going to alienate your player base enough and you're going to end up with basically a rapport like Nexon or a lot of these other free to play like MMO companies that people just won't play their games anymore because they're like, oh great, here's another shovelware piece of garbage.
And I'm so glad you brought up Diablo, because this is a side tangent, but something that really irked me on the Blizzard front this past week. So we got like this big Diablo 4 news in regards to release day, all the good stuff, and then they're like, oh, but wait, you can pre-purchase the collector's edition, right? And then they're like, you know what, guys, we're gonna have like this collector's edition box that has some cool shit in it, but it will not include the game. That is a separate purchase. And then there's 3 fucking tiers for Diablo 4 on top of that, starting at like $69.99, going all the way up to like $98.99 for like the Ultimate Edition. On top of, if you want the collector's box, it was like another $90. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I really felt like back in the Diablo Immortal, credit card slot days, when the game launched, to try to get like that really good gem at the time. But it's just like, man, when you see stuff like that and then you see the event being brought in with everything behind the cash shop, it's just a kick in the nuts.
Welcome to Blizzard 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they replaced on the orc statue out front. Like, buy our games, it's just a kick in the nuts.
I mean, the amount of times that we have, like, we already have said it 2 times today. We said it a bunch of times last show. Of like, oh, we have a bunch of ideas to fix this. It's just every other week. It's just, oh, we have a bunch of ideas to fix this, and we have a bunch of ideas to fix this. We have a bunch of ideas to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And small indie company.
Yep. Just the gradual change, and hopefully, with these hotfix systems coming in, we will get to see some more frequent stuff happening on the server side. But outside of that, with the events, of course, they're doing like Twitch drops. We also have like the achievement skin for Brigitte, which is the Ice Queen skin. And like I haven't done the achievements yet, but like it felt like the general consensus for the event just across the board was, all right, I'm gonna log in, I'm gonna play like 4 or 5 games, knock the challenges out to get the skin, and then they're just logging off. Like the replay value just not really there. But also, there's just not a ton to do with the event overall. Spyder, I know you knocked out the majority of the challenges involved with this.
Yeah, I got 4 out of the 6 done. I got the Yeti Hunt one done. I got the Snowball Offensive couple done. And then I started doing the freeze tag. I haven't done the thaw one yet, but I don't mention it. I don't remember if I mentioned it on the show or before the show, but like teams were like lining up and like during the elimination thaw, and they were like, all right, let's meet in the middle and we'll just farm these thaws out so we could get the achievement and then we'll play the game. But we had like one bad actor that just wasn't doing what he was supposed to. But if you get 2 teams that can cooperate, you can finish that in like 3 minutes. It's super fast. But you know, the fact that you would put these events, like these challenges out, is just, I don't know, it's counterproductive. Like, you know, I always shit on them for the like win 9 games or play 20 games, but at this point I'd rather just have that back, because at least that encourages you to play the game. You know, like, fuck it, play each mode once, and then, you know, win 5 games, like, kind of thing. At least encourage people to play the game rather than to do these asinine like side quests for, you know, the skin looks good. Like, I like the Brig skin, but some people are going to be like, it ain't worth it.
Absolutely. And, you know, if that's not your cup of tea, you could always just do the Twitch drop route, which they have a Diva bundle. So they have the Slayin Diva Legendary skin as well as a Victory pose. This starts a little bit later, though, towards the back half of Winter Wonderland, because there's only like a week and a half stretch where you can actually unlock it. But basically, you get to watch, like, I think it's like 2 hours and 4 hours for you know, any Overwatch streamer out there. But it's running December 25th through January 4th to get the Diva stuff. So, you know, at least when I saw this, I was like, well, at least like there's one bundle that won't be like shop specific. So like that was like kind of like the one positive note that I really took away. Like, I really do like the skin, so I'm like, hey, I don't have to spend $25 on this. I could just watch, you know, 4 hours of you know, whichever Twitch streamer is on at the time. Probably just be, you know, Siegel, because he's probably been the most frequent streamer here recently.
He's farming that money, man. I respect the hustle, and you know, he usually groups up with Flats and Emong and you know, whoever else is around, and the streams are highly entertaining because they just fuck around. Like, half the time they weren't playing comp, at least during the last event, and they were like rotating Ramatra, and it was just hilarious to watch them. So yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's something I usually pull up during work, and I leave it up, you know, so I can watch it during the day. But at least they're giving us 2 skins this time. That's infinite more than they gave us during the last event. So whatever, however we get them, I guess we got to accept our hands out from Papa Blizzard somehow.
Yeah, you know, you're saving, you know, like the $50 here, but then you're shelling out $90 for a Diablo box.
That doesn't even have the damn game. No. I want to, like, every fiber in my being wants to pre-order Diablo 4 because I love Diablo. Like, I've dumped so many hours into 1, 2, and 3. Not Immortal, because that one doesn't count. That's not a Diablo game. But like, I want to, but I like, they have burned me so bad at this point that I am waiting until like the last possible minute until they have released as much information as possible.
Right?
Who could blame you?
Yeah, because like right now they're just like, oh yeah, you could get you know, guaranteed beta access. They're doing like a 4-day early access, you know, ahead of the game launch, you know, things like that. But, you know, also just the simple fact that it's priced at next gen console prices, even though the fact that it is on PS4 and the last gen stuff.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the Microsoft deal, because Microsoft just started implementing the $70 price tag. So I think once they caved, they were like the last holdout to me. Like as soon as they caved, I expected it, like everybody else, to cave and pump it up to 70. Like we're gonna see it regardless across the industry at this point. Like for a while there, people were just kind of pointing at Sony and being like, haha, you guys are dumbasses for charging 70. Whereas now that Microsoft's doing it too, they're like, well, I want to fit in.
And you
I
know
like money.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what's funny? Like when I was doing the show notes today, it was like, oh, well, like they're talking about some upcoming balance changes, and then it just like dropped the patch that they were literally talking or alluding to right after that. So we're just gonna remove that link from the show notes because we're gonna talk about the new patch that dropped today. So we got some balance updates again. Shortly after our recent balance patch, which we just had, which of course saw Doomfist buffed quite extensively, and also Ramacha's just kind of there, not really killing anyone in its ultimate because everyone's just healing through it because it doesn't do enough damage. That's besides the point. They didn't actually address that with Ramatra. They looked at other stuff, but more on that in just a second. But let's take a look at what we have here with the patch that dropped earlier today on December 15th. So Doomfist, obviously hot topic for the community with how oppressive he had been since he did receive those buffs. We got some changes to the Rocket Punch cooldown being increased from 3 to 4 seconds. They also changed up the power block in regards to minimum damage mitigated required to empower the Rocket Punch. That was increased from 80 to 100 damage. And then finally, we have a change to his passive ability, where the temporary health gained per target hit with abilities was decreased from 40 to 35 health. So, all in all, like, having not been in the game much today outside of logging in to get my Winter Wonderland player icon. I gotta get the snowflake for the holidays on that end. But when I saw this, I was trying to get like a pulse on the community, where it's just like, initially everyone's like, oh, thank God they finally buffed Doomfist because he was absolute trash tier. And then everyone's like, whoa, that's too much, guys. Like you gotta peel it back just a little bit. But for me personally, the most important thing about this is now that we do have like the hotfix patches coming through, we can start to see the more incremental changes where if something is tuned to an extreme, they could dial it back or they can dial it forward. So to see the immediate sort of adjustment here, I don't want to say it gives me the impression that this is going to be standardized for future balance changes, but it's just at least nice to know that they have the capability of changing things when they're clearly not quite where they're meant to be, at their current state.
Yeah, fuck that guy. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I've talked about it enough. Go ahead, Ramses.
Oh no, the immediacy of it was good because I know initially we were like, man, we're gonna stuck with this till January. Oh no. So I'm happy that they're addressing stuff. Would be cool if we could get a little bit more of it right the first time. But I don't know, man. Like it always feels like it can never be like completely balanced across the board. There's always like one spot that's going to be rough, and like that's kind of to be expected. I think it just gets a little irritating after a while. Like the Blizzard does this thing. It feels like where like when they create a problem, like with Doomfist, they'll take care of the problem, but they'll also buff a solution to where the solution now is just really strong, even though there's no problem like for it to fix with it. Like you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Spyder, but like Ana's damage getting buffed significantly, like from 70 to 75, which like I don't know, I feel like that's maybe a Roadhog or Doomfist related change, but we're also nerfing Doomfist, so like I feel like at 1.1 one thing gets strong, one thing gets weaker, and the other thing gets way stronger to compensate.
I could see that. Like it definitely feels like they're like, okay, Doomfist is really strong. Let's buff somebody who can counter Doomfist. And then like another part of the team's like, all right, we're nerfing Doomfist. And then they just throw it all in one patch and they're like, oh dude, wait, what? Oh my God. Anna's a monster now. She's the new Doomfist. Like, why did you give her Rocket Punch? Like, that wasn't the counter, you know? But it is weird because somebody on Reddit, and I wanted to pull this up, but I ran out of time, but somebody on Reddit, like, put it perfectly for Doomfist. Doomfist buffs and nerfs never happen one at a time. And I thought about it, and it's true. Like, whenever they buff Doomfist, they change like all his abilities, and then whenever they nerf him, they change like all his abilities again. Like, yeah, dude, just try one. Like, if you have this hotfix thing, like, they could have upped the power block and lowered the temporary defense and left it at that, and then been like, okay, well, he's still way too mobile, then change the Rocket Punch. Like, I feel like Doomfist has a lot of knobs to turn, and he is such an oppressive hero when he is really good that he's a lot like Sombra. Like, there's very specific heroes that are just unfun to play against, and Blizzard has backed themselves into this wall where these heroes exist, so they have to balance around them. So if they're really good, the players are like, this isn't fun. But if they're not good, then the players who play them are like, this isn't fun. So it's hard to find a middle ground for them. And, you know, especially, like, I agree with them moving Doomfist to a tank. I think was a right decision at the time, because it just the whole CC things and everything. But it's going to be really hard to balance him because it's just such a diverse role at this point. So I would like to see more incremental changes, kind of like what you were talking about. And, you know, if they're going to put out these hot fixes, like, these hot fixes don't need to be like mid-season patches where they're hitting 10 or 11 heroes. Like, boom, today's hot fix, nerfed Doomfist by a little bit. That's it. We're going to see how he does in the next week. Okay, next week, Doomfist is still really powerful. Okay, we're going to buff so-and-so to see if that helps. Okay, that didn't help. All right, then we're going to do some more changes. And you do that incrementally for 4 weeks until you get to the mid-season patch and being like, all right, we tried all this stuff. It's not working. Doomfist to the ground. Anna can fly now. You know, that's when you do like the big changes. So I feel like they need to find a good middle ground for these hot fixes. Like, they don't need all this stuff. Like, I think this one should have been a Doomfist nerf. It should have been a Roadhog nerf, which they said they wanted to include but couldn't because of a bug, and a Ramattra buff. Like, I think that would have been fine. You know, maybe another Mercy ammo buff because she really needs it. But, you know, keep it small and see how the player base adjusts to it. Like, these sweeping changes, it's going to be hard to get a feel for it before the patch, where as if you keep it small, you target that specific thing. Like, in software development, we're never like, oh, cool, we have this new feature. Let's add 7 features with this new feature so we can figure out what's going to be the most busted when we roll it out and nothing works. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, whoever is doing their like workflow needs to stop and be like, this is a terrible way to do things.
Yep, and you know, it doesn't give you enough time to pinpoint here because you're just spreading everything out across the board. So rather than having a more concise feel of the way things are, you know, they're just hitting like even with this patch, there's like 8 heroes that they touched up on in a hotfix patch. You know, this isn't like a major or it's not supposed to be like the major, you know, mid-season patch.
Before people get mad at me, I just want to Doomfist, Roadhog, Sojourn, and Ramattra. Okay, I think those
he wasn't
4.
serious about Mercy.
Yeah, Sojourn. I think Sojourn needed active changes, but those would have been my 4.
Absolutely. But looking at Orisa, we have some changes to the Terror Surge, which now pierces through barriers upon impact. We also have the damage fall off range being increased from 15 to 25 meters for her fusion driver. Which, that's like pretty nice. Reinhardt mains to some extent probably not too happy with the minor buff to the ultimate, but you know, like, having a more consistent poke for a tank when they just added like a tempo tank, like, I'm okay with.
I'm fine with these changes. I worry that it might make her better than they intended to, because at this point I feel like she's better at dealing with pharmacy than Ramatra is, and he was labeled as the one to do well against the air comps. And but I think both of these are good changes to try out and see what she does. I mean, Orissa's at this point were basically just poking and running straight forward to get in the enemy's face, and then the good Orissas would walk past the enemy tank and just start eliminating backline players, because she can do a lot of damage when she's up front, and move people around, and really piss people off. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
I'm not surprised at the timing of this. It's not ironic that they buff Orisa the same time they add the Star Sheep skin, to the shop. Definitely not a coincidence. So
they're running the League of Legends route, huh? Whenever they put like the ultra skins in the shop, it's time to buff those heroes.
Yep, that's how you run a business.
Yeesh. Man, I'm interested to see like if Orisa gets because you'll see her on a couple of maps, but I think like I don't know, Fusion Driver. Sorry, not Fusion Driver. Terror Surge is one of those ults too, where like it just feels like it's never like. I still always hear people talk about how bad it is, and it's fine. Like it's just more that like it requires a lot of stuff to work in your favor for it to be really good.
No, it doesn't. It just requires a Mei. If you have a Mei, it's an amazing ult because you just wall them off and then they can't run away. And now that previous to that, the only thing that would stop it was a barrier. But it like Orisa and Mei is a nasty combo if you haven't tried it, because you can literally Mei ult into Terra Surge and get team wipes every time. Like it's new. It's like the new Grab Dragon.
Jeez.
See, Spyder's just actively going out of his way to get more people to play Mei.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
No. The Ramatra changes are interesting because I know they were talking about like I saw SVB talking about it. I think it was SVB like that. Ramatra now in Nemesis mode. His goal, like his analogy of it is like he feels like a horror, like a slasher movie villain. Where the idea is like he's supposed to be hunting you down, just pummeling you to death. I don't know. From what you said, like it sounds like he's not doing enough damage still quite yet.
Although
buffed him up.
I was thinking about it, right? Like as I look at it, his biggest problem was even in Nemesis mode, he had a hard time surviving, and closing the gap, which they did address in both of these changes. So you could throw up that barrier, close the gap, and then hit Nemesis form, and then go to town on them. And if you can live longer, like that negates two things. It negates the lack of damage when he was in Nemesis form, because you used to have to block all the time just to stay alive. But it also passively increases the damage of his ultimate, because he's going to be able to damage during the ultimate. And his punches do a lot of damage. The problem was you didn't have a lot of opportunity to use them because you were getting like blasted down. So this, the more I think about this change, this could be enough to make him decent. I don't think this will make him like overpowered, or I don't think this will like put him in the place where he's still picked over like Roadhog or any of the other tanks for most maps. But this at least gives him a fighting chance at this point.
Yep, because he can close the gap quicker since he has a 20% movement speed increase with his Nemesis form, and they also gave him 75 additional armor from 150 to 225. The other change here was with his barrier, which is part of his Omnic form, reducing the cooldown from 15 to 13 seconds across the board. So it's been an interesting case just because like everyone was like so amazed at like the toolkit and me like, oh, how is this actually gonna work? And then when we got like hands-on experience with the Ramatra, just like it felt pretty flat. So hopefully this will be in a better spot moving forward, where Ramatra just doesn't feel like a throw pick, which is basically what he was, the first week of play that we got to see out of him. But regardless of what was going on there, a lot of the community thought was still narrowed down to, what's going on with Roadhog still having a one-shot capability in the game. Obviously, they're addressing that in the future patch. And also, high-level players still complaining a lot about Sojourn. And we got some additional nerfs to Sojourn with today's balance patch, with the primary fire spread being increased by 28%. Her disruptor shot, which is her snare, no longer slows enemy movement. And we also have the cooldown increase for her power slide from 6 to 7 seconds. Now, initially when I saw that spread percentage for the railgun, I was like, holy shit, like that is a sizable change in regards to that. Because like we've seen weapon spread changes in the past that were definitely more minuscule compared to this one in particular. So when I saw that, I'm just like, well, as someone who was decent at the left click but really shitty with the right click, like this basically just completely negates any capability that I may have had with Sojourn, essentially.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I didn't get a chance to play her in a game, but she was the first one that I took to the practice range to test out, and it is super noticeable on moving targets. I think the big one here is the disruptor shot, because I'm not proper, so I can't land cross map railgun shots on the regular. Like I'll get a couple here and there to put up on a highlight clip, but disruptor shot was like the cheat code for that. Like you would throw disruptor shot down, hit your ultimate, and then just go to town because everybody was slow if you aimed it right. Whereas now it's more of like just a zoning ability rather than something you would do like mid fight. Basically, like you're going to use it more to like cut off like retreat or change pathways and stuff like that. You're not going to be throwing it in the middle of a fight in most instances unless you really need that extra damage. But I don't know, like I think these changes were good, but this definitely brings her out of like the must pick category for pretty much all skill ranges, at least to me.
If what we assume happens is going to happen, I will not believe Sojourn is bad until she has a 0% pick rate. I refuse to believe.
I never said bad. I just said she's not a must pick anymore. I think there are other characters out there now that are way more dangerous than her that people are sleeping on, like this. You guys expect me to say May. I'm not going to say May.
No, I know what you're going to say.
Who am I going to? I want to see if you can guess.
People are sleeping on how good Junkrat is right now.
See, yeah. Junkrat is a menace right now, and people have not talked about it at all. I am so surprised because this is like the best place Junkrat's ever been in, and he might be a little bit overpowered with the current compositions that are being played.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, just going back to Sojourn really quick, a lot of the conversation, like regardless of the changes today, we're still revolving around like the Mercy Pocket and just having damage boosts in Overwatch as a whole, where it's like, yeah, it's great, like you made these changes, but like she would still have like that one-shot capability with the full charge right click with a railgun. So a lot of people more looking at like, well, maybe they should have changed something with the way the damage boosts work in Overwatch rather than, changing all these other factors with the actual toolkit. Because like when I look at this and I saw like the primary fire spread change in particular, it's just like, well, at the lower levels, like this is really going to be like the death knell for her completely. Because you were already saying like they weren't really making full use out of her kit. And, now it's just like, well, her left click is just going to be all over the place at the lower skill level. So it's just like, well, you're not actually going to be hitting anything at this point.
Yep. I think these were all needed changes. I think it's time for Sojourn to slide back a little bit, and then wait 7 seconds to slide back a little further. But I think these were all good changes for DPS. Now I think people are going to start to see how good Junkrat is. I think they're going to start to see how good Reaper is. We're going to start to see some of the other DPS come into the limelight, and I think that's good for the game because not everybody wants to play against Sojourn every game. Not everybody wants to play against Widowmaker or any of these other heroes. If they can balance the DPS well enough that it's not a throw pick to pick any of them, I think that's the dream. But as long as they're all somewhat semi-balanced and you only have a couple of top or bottom ranking heroes, I think that's fine. Flank Symmetra.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, I still need to hop on and play some sim games to see how she feels. But they also made a change to Tracer. They scaled back her pulse pistol damage a little bit, because last patch it went from 5 to 6. With today's patch, it went from 6 to 5.5. So a little bit of a nerf there. I was kind of surprised with this one in particular because it is the poster girl of Overwatch, right? Like, I mean, come on, like, they only continue to buff Mercy across the board with ridiculous changes in this case, and she's the poster healer, and now they're nerfing the poster girl just as a whole. So I'm just like, well, what the hell's going on? Like, but it's like just tasting like porridge in this case with Tracer. They got to find the right spot, and taking 5.5 damage with the pulse pistols is going to be the right spot.
I think this is fair. I think Tracer is in Overwatch 2 one of those heroes that could be a menace if she gets too strong, just because there is lack of peel at this point. I feel like she's a lot like Sombra, and she's a lot like Doomfist, that like if she gets in your back line and she's strong, there's not much counterplay to it, which is not fun. So they've talked about how they want supports to be able to duel it out a little more now, but if it's just a lose case scenario unless there's a huge skill gap, that's not fun. And I definitely feel like Tracer is one of those heroes that can easily creep into that. So I don't know if this was needed, but I can see why they're keeping like such a tight lid on her.
Yeah. I mean, if it was at the point where even me, like where I can play decently well on Tracer and like get a lot of kills out of it, then like it's okay. I think it's fine. Yeah, because there was like the one clip potential was kind of ridiculous before. But speaking of not one clipping, I guess speaking of damage potential.
Yeah, so my life playing Pharah doesn't get any better with this. As damage got increased, well, and her healing, because it's baseline with her biotic rifle. I got increased from 70 to 75. We also have the biotic grenade effect duration increase from 3 to 4 seconds, which is interesting, because this also like somewhat ties into dispels with Kiriko and her protection Suzu, with the invulnerability duration being reduced from 1 to 0.85 seconds. So yeah, definitely interesting. Again, similar to like the Mercy change that we got with the less balanced patch. We got to make Ana a little bit more of a duelist in this case. Well, in her case, it makes more sense because she actually has a sniper rifle. Now, sure, it's an unconventional one at that, but it is a sniper rifle nonetheless. But you know what? When I saw the like Suzu change, I was like, man, like this sort of ability is one that I feel like the community is never going to agree on, because just the idea of having anything that gives someone invulnerability is just something that they just don't want to see in the game. It's I'm not gonna say it's to the extent that it was for like mass res, but like Resurrect as a whole is still like a hot button topic for the community, whether or not it should be in a game like this. And knowing that we are 5v5 now, just seeing how much more value you do get out of that. On top of that, so we've seen like a 0.15 second change for a lot of people isn't going to be that big of a deal.
No, I think it just changes your on use like conditions. You're going to definitely save it more for cleanses than you are for the invulnerability. Like I had been using it because, like I said, I've been playing a lot of Kiriko because I've been in support jail flex queuing. I've been using it basically when the tank walks in, because that's when a lot of people are going to blow their cooldowns. So if it's like Roadhog v Roadhog, I throw it in right when I expect him to hook. So even if he lands the hook, it doesn't matter. Or if people like Echo throws sticky bombs or stuff like that, like it was good at the beginning of an engagement to just get the fight rolling a little bit more in our favor. Whereas now I definitely feel like I will save it more for like if I see Echo sticky bomb somebody important, or if I see a biotic grenade go out, like it's going to be less for the invulnerability and more for the cleanses. But the invuln is still going to be powerful if you can time it right. Like I've stopped multiple Junkrat tires because Junkrat tires, I'm glad they chose that in the trailer because that is like the most easy to use case for Suzu, because you see the tire coming at you like 95% of the time, unless they're like weaving it through the skylights. And even still, you can kind of hear where it's coming from. But like other ultimates, it's a little harder. Like you can use it for like Pharah's ult and stuff like that. Like you'd be proud of me. I saved a Pharah while she was ulting yesterday. Like that was almost my clip this morning for the YouTube shorts. Like I had to climb over a wall and I like threw it down, and then she got like a triple kill. And we didn't get play of the game or anything for it. I was a little mad, but yeah, both of these support changes I think are fine. The Ana change is weird to me because it doesn't really change any of the break points. Like it doesn't change her like sure she still needs 3 shots to kill a 200 health hero. She still even damage boosted still requires 3 shots, I believe, because isn't it 30% now for the damage boost? So if it's anything less than 30%, then it definitely still needs 3 shots. The biotic grenade, it I guess helps, but Kiriko eliminates it anyway. Like Kiriko is getting played in almost every single game. So, unless the targets all run in different directions, which they do, but you can still cleanse a couple of them. But I guess like they're fine for what they are. I don't think these have any impact on the gameplay. Like I don't think this changes Kiriko from a must pick at this point. Her healing's still good. Her ultimate is still busted. Like her ultimate's still the best in the game, regardless of the changes. Like it is still a fight winning support ultimate, hands down. So okay. Like now maybe we'll just see Kiriko and Ana together, and you can get like a Fox nano boosted Bastion running down mid and see if Roadhog can heal through that shit.
I'm already having nightmares.
For Totem, speaking of that, today in my game this morning, I threw my ultimate out, and then our Ana nano boosted the Symmetra, and the Symmetra just WM1 and got a 5 kill. Like it was. I almost put it as the short, and I may do it tomorrow, just because it is so funny. Because the Symmetra literally just like walks in a straight line and then turns and then walks towards the rest of the team and just kills the whole team.
Fantastic! I can't wait to see it. But yeah, that's basically it for today's balance patch, which is one of the hotfix patches. So. We'll see. I mean, I'm assuming like the next balance patch will be the January patch, which is what they were alluding to. So a couple of weeks out from now, which would also make sense because obviously the holidays, usually we don't see updates in regards to that, since they won't be in the office at that point. But yeah, either way, a lot of community members a little disgruntled about Winter Wonderland, understandably so. But we'll have to keep an eye on things because like I really feel like doing like these little micro patches is definitely like the right direction to take, rather than just updating things here and there. But we'll have to keep an eye on it to see if they're going to continue the trend of like say these are going to be a little bit more on the minor side, and we will have like the full blown balance patch for mid-season. And hopefully this time around they hit it at the right time, which they should, given that they kind of messed up pretty royally with the prior one.
Yep. I don't have anything to say on that. It's just facts. Yep. Big true.
All right, so with that being said, guys, I think we close things out for tonight. Of course, the best thing to do to keep up to date with everything going on here at Heroes Never Die is to find us over on Twitter and on TikTok at HND Overwatch. Of course, you can find all of our YouTube videos, including the money video that Spyder did comparing Overwatch 2 to other free-to-play titles and how well it stacks up. Spoilers, it doesn't. Which yeah, good job not beating the trend, really. I mean, we're below average. Feels
Being
bad, man.
Worst in class.
Oof. You hate to see it, but yeah, Spyder talked all about that. We've also been doing a ton of shorts on the YouTube as well as our TikTok. Outside of that, of course, the best thing to do is, as always, to talk to us over on our community Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. I do know a lot of people have been asking about like the community game night. We'll probably just wait till January just because of the holidays, making things pretty hard to schedule, trying to find, a good fit for that. So we'll probably have news on that front here within the next couple of weeks once we have a date planned on that front. But outside of that, of course, you can find all of us over on social media. So Ramses, where can the listeners find you there?
You can find me on Twitter for however long it still exists at Ramses_GG. And we're working on wrapping up stuff for the last little bit of Push the Point, but eventually, if you want to find any of that, that's Push the Point on all your different podcast platforms.
I feel like the death of Twitter has been so wound up at this point, but we're just waiting for it to happen. But then nothing actually is. It's like Y2K all over again.
Yeah, except this will actually happen because they announced today they're not paying vendors anymore, like they're not paying their lease or rent. Something.
Yeah.
So I feel like at this point, it's gonna happen because if they're not paying the rent, where are they going to host the servers for it at this point? Are they just going to completely go to Amazon Web Services? Because that doesn't seem like something Elon Musk would do. Why outsource it to another billionaire when he could make all the money, kind of thing. So I don't know. Yeah. But for the time being, you can find me at _Spyder Gaming. Like Totem said, check out the money video. I put a lot of work into it. It's doing okay on YouTube. I wish it would do better, but yeah, it's a lot of good information. I will probably get back to doing more regular Overwatch 2 content like map videos and hero videos and stuff like that coming in the new year. Now that the release is behind us, the growing pains are still here, but it's not as fun to beat the dead horse over and over again. So we'll probably go back to the normal content beginning of the year once things slow down. So check that out. Subscribe. Check out the shorts. The shorts are fun. Usually they're, just me doing dumb stuff or the enemy team doing dumb stuff and making me look good. So, fun stuff. So,
it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Sometimes people just walk into your alternate fires. That's just how it works.
The Moira clip is still my favorite because I literally was like, I'm coming to heal you guys, and then they just kept backing into me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill you. There's a healing orb. Okay, I'm gonna kill you. Nobody, other than the Junkrat who was actively trying to kill me, so I had to defend myself. None of the other characters looked at me at all. They were just like, cool, I'm backing up to the health pack, and I'm like, dude, I'm standing on the health pack, just killing you. What are you gonna do? So.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, been fantastic. But Short's been doing well. Also helping the YouTube channel find some new subscribers. So that's been a fun thing to dive into here in recent weeks. But of course, outside of that, you can find me also on Twitter at Simply Drunk. But for now, that will do it for us here tonight on Heroes Never Die. This has been episode 245. Remember to go check out our Anjali Bhamani interview, which will also be dropping alongside this one. And we'll see you guys back probably next week. We'll have to figure that out. We'll see what the news is for the week, because it's probably going to be pretty minimal. I would imagine. So we'll keep an eye on it. But worst case, we'll be back the week after for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys have a good night, and we will see you around over in the Discord. Take
Bye.
care.
Also, Edidar is still alive.
He is alive. This is true. He is dead on social media, so therefore.